Not everyone has good role models. Not everyone grew up in a wholesome environment where there was a healthy foundation for emotional development, trust, having heart to heart conversations, that reliable bond. Not everybody grew up in an environment where that was available. And what happens is, if you grew up in an environment where you didn't have the right nurturing and you had to, in a way, get by with certain being deprived in certain key areas, you do tend to adapt to those deprivations that you would have grown up with. And you tend to overcompensate in other areas. Maybe if you were not getting the love that you should be getting from your parents, maybe you try to get it excessively from friends and other people. So maybe you're a bit too clingy. Or maybe if you were emotionally abused, where you had too much negative attention on you, then maybe you developed very thick skin, very closed off personality, having severe trust issues, and boundaries that were so high that maybe they were even unhealthy because you wouldn't let people in because of the trust issues. And a lot of times, well, those are just some examples. There are many ways you can be deprived or not have the right emotional nurturing growing up. And a lot of times you grow up with this distorted view of reality. In a sense, you're not very aware of what a normal, healthy family type relationship is. You're not really aware what a normal, healthy upbringing is because you didn't experience it. And so a lot of times you don't consciously acknowledge that there is something different from what you've experienced. At least you don't acknowledge it to the point where you can relate to it. You might cognitively be aware that yes, some people have maybe a healthy upbringing, but you can't relate to that what that would be like because you didn't experience it. And a lot of times people just they either can't accept the way their upbringing was, or they can't really come to terms with it. So in a way, they're always running from themselves. They're running from the version of them which could be healed if they could actually accept the upbringing for what it was, accept the people who maybe didn't play a very good part in your life for who they were, and acknowledge that maybe none of it was your fault, none of it was really your doing, but there were other people who had their own problems, their own issues, and they did was project their own issues upon you, and a lot of times that projection simply came in the form of neglect, in a sense where they didn't have the ability, the bandwidth to care because they were so tied up in their own problems. You know, a lot of parents aren't really good at being a parent, and a lot of caregivers aren't really able to nurture the people they're caring for. But it does mean that those people, the children who grew up in that environment, can sometimes feel a bit lost. And that's really what this video is about. Feeling a bit lost, and sometimes it can take a long time before you actually find someone, like someone who can help you understand what you went through. Because there's no point trying to get professional help if the therapist or whoever it is you're going to go see hasn't experienced something sufficiently similar to what you experienced to the point where they can actually give you helpful, constructive feedback. A therapist who is purely learned by the book and not life experience probably isn't a very good therapist to many people because there's a relatability factor which is missing, which means the person who's on the other end trying to seek help can't really resonate with, can't really open up, and therefore can't find the holy grail, which is the issue that remains today and how they can fix that. But there is there is this element of having to accept that yes, maybe you're not really going to find somebody who fully understands what you went through. Or at least if you do, you can't really control the timing of it. Because you may have come up, you may have grown up in a very specific set of circumstances that, experience certain types of emotional deprivation or abuse that not many people can resonate with. But as you grow and develop and learn that, maybe some things happen in a way they shouldn't have, but it was outside your control. It was an external factor. You were dealt the card you were dealt. You were dealt the hand you were dealt. You If you have this attitude where you want to just you really do want to kind of heal, learn, develop, grow, it's like the world is a jigsaw puzzle and there are pieces out there that help you understand certain parts of yourself, certain parts of your upbringing that define who you are today. And it can be things like listening to other people who resonate with your experience, or maybe you're just reading a story, or this whole thing around reflection, because sometimes when you over time you start witnessing more what healthy relationships look like, you can consciously sit back and think, okay, that's a healthy interaction. Okay, this person has a healthy relationship with their children. Look how happy their children are. Look how assured their children feel. Healthy parents give their children so much self-esteem, such a good upbringing when they're small, that later in life, it doesn't matter how many people try to poke a hole in it. They have enough self-esteem to last themselves independently. They don't rely on people. They don't have that excessive neediness. That's what a healthy upbringing does. But for someone who's been lost for a while because they've experienced some form of trauma and they're just trying to put things into a good place, there are pieces out there. And if looking at other interactions, coming across people who have sufficiently similar stories to you, over time, you get more and more pieces of the puzzle, and you can attach those things to you. You can make more sense out of things, and it also helps you become a person, the kind of person you want to be today. In a way, if you're trying to find the solution for the problems that you have, and you do it with a trusting, positive leaning attitude, a will to just overcome those wounds and become a better version of yourself and be happier and just have that kind of courage and motivation. And sometimes if you've experienced certain forms of trauma, you hold yourself back, even in things like having a prosperous career, doing something productive, to getting involved to hobbies, the whole spectrum of activities you can get involved with. Sometimes you hold yourself back. Trauma has that potential. But back to the puzzle, right? This puzzle I'm talking about, all those pieces that are out there that can help piece together what you've been missing. And a lot of it has to do with the understanding you've been missing. If you start bringing that stuff into yourself, really attaching yourself to those pieces, you know, understanding what healthy relationship is, accepting your caregivers, that they maybe had their own problems. Maybe you were raised by people with volatile personalities like cluster Bs, whether it's narcissism, psychopathy, borderline personality disorder, the kind of personality disorders which more often than not traumatize the children for life. Subject, of course, to them getting over it and healing from the trauma. But having this eagerness just fly with yourself, it's like you're becoming your own mentor, because you're trying to piece together a collage of items, of data pieces, data that solves the problem which you experience today. And sometimes you might kind of you see something that resonates and you kind of binge on that for a while because you only think about that. You only give your airtime to that. And then you see something else that resonates and you binge on that. You tend to binge on something new, whether it's like a podcast or even sometimes these TV series. Sometimes you watch a TV series where the theme is like, there's a certain theme to it. Sometimes it's a certain genre of, it's a certain nature of drama or a certain nature of adventure. Sometimes it resonates so deeply with you that you just kind of get absorbed by it. You just can't let it go for a while. But eventually you do let it go because a part of that thing's become you. And then you take the essence of whatever that thing was that you were giving your airtime to, whether it's paying attention to a friend of yours who has a very healthy relationship with their family, or a new podcast where you're getting insight after insight until you've exhausted it. And then maybe you go to a different kind of podcast or books, or sometimes just understanding the nature of your trauma and that maybe a certain person caused it. And then you kind of just meditate on the fact that that person had their own issues that you never fully appreciated because it was too complex for somebody growing up to understand the issues that their caregiver would have had. And all of these pieces of understanding, all these pieces of insight, everything just kind of, you take it on piece by piece. And the idol, the kind of mentor that maybe you missed in life that you never had growing up, what you really wanted after a certain point, you wanted somebody who was an embodiment of all those pieces, all those puzzle pieces. You wanted your idol, your mentor, to be a puzzle that was a collage of the pieces that you're trying to define to heal yourself. But actually, if you just experience life in the right way, having the right attitude and nothing else, you don't have to do anything else. Just go with your flow. And when you have this kind of like intuitive impulse to take action, you take action. Just kind of follow the resonance and the learning and all that stuff that just feels like it's what you need. Becoming your own mentor, but those things that are important to you, you will embody those things very powerfully. Because sometimes it might have taken you 20, 30, 40, 50 years to really find and embody those things. For example, a lot of people never understood what like a narcissist was until they're like 50s, 60s, 70s. If they fully appreciated and understood what a narcissist was when they were in their 20s and 30s, they would have had the rest of their life to understand the importance of boundaries and not opening up your trust to the wrong people. They would have saved a lifetime of heartache. Or if you would have understood that maybe one of your caregivers had severe trauma themselves that maybe they experienced from their caregivers, then maybe all the trauma that you would have experienced through your upbringing, it would have been easier to accept it. And like, while nothing justifies anybody abusing you or depriving you or neglecting you growing up, maybe if you have, for example, anger towards that person, you can let the anger go. Of course, if the person's still alive and they're still abusive, you shouldn't open yourself up to abuse. But sometimes it's easier to let go when you understand that, well, the person didn't really know any better. It's kind of like people have, what's the word? Not carnivorous, but something like carnivorous. Shit. There's a word I'm looking for, and I can't think of it. It's like I'm having a mental image of a lion. Lions are savage, but that's not the word I'm looking for either. But there's a word. There's a word of people who can be very kind of predators, predatorial. Yeah. So some people just have this natural instinct to kind of predate on others because it's how they get their own needs met, and then sometimes you are the object of that, and that will, of course, would have messed up your head a lot, and it takes time to heal from it. So over time, if you accept that you can kind of become your own mentor by finding those pieces of the puzzle, and that puzzle is like the idol or the mentor that you never had, not only does it help you heal, except you learn so much in the process, and you really shine those puzzle pieces outwards. in a sense, you embody those things so powerfully because they have such an impact, such an impactful impact on you. And if you're the kind of person that also wants to share your wisdom and insights to others, if you've been through a long process to gain your own insights and learn, if you've been through a long, torturous process, which maybe lasted 20, 30, who knows how many years, and you kind of found it on your own with the help of the elements out there, then you really showcase those, and you can also help other people learn. And you can feel fulfilled in just being an embodiment of the things that, you wish you knew a lot earlier. And it also helps give you the courage to finally go out and pursue whatever it is you really want. And also accept that in life, there's always going to be challenges, and you're always going to be kind of fluctuating from one challenge to another. Some people might even say one crisis to another, but they're never quite as bad. They're always, it seems that they always become manageable once you've kind of developed a certain level of insight. So if you have not been able to find the solution to your problems through another, then you can kind of become that own solution. And it does take time, but you kind of do get there, kind of becoming your own mentor. And then you can live and share as you wish. Thanks for watching.